There are two sides to every story. The National Broadcasting Company presents the vivid drama of life itself. Broadcasting's original program of Mediation, the Court of Human Relations. And now the man who has familiarized millions of people with the idea of mediation helped to make it a creative force in American life. A.L. Alexander.
Surely one of the most alarming challenges to the peace and security of our time is the matter of juvenile delinquency. Millions of words have been spoken and tons of ink have been spilled, probing, explaining, analyzing. But this disquieting social disease continues to take its toll. Now here is a case involving a worried mother, eager to save her boy from involvement in or exposure to this infectious business, and the boy himself who has his own ideas. Obviously, you couldn't have a better board of mediation. One of the wisest and most perceptive observers of our time, the famed novelist Pearl Buck. Lloyd E. Foster, an inspiring leader in the field of child study and adult education. And a key personality in the intricate social pattern of today, Robert J. McCracken. Now here is the mother, and here is the boy. And let's see if we can't turn up something helpful here. I guess it takes a lot of know-how and a lot of gumption to be a mother these days.
Mr. Alexander, my boy has agreed to abide by the decision of the board because we've been unable to reach a decision amongst our family.
Tell us what this is all about.
My boy is 16 years old, and he has made some bad companions. They all belong to a tough neighborhood gang. And he wants to go out nights.
Well, what are you trying to do to protect the boy?
Well, we don't want him to get into any trouble, and we're trying to protect him from this. We've taken away his privileges and confined him to the home. Because of this, he's packed his bags and threatens to leave home. I know that he respects the opinion of people like you on the board, and that's why I've come here to settle this.
Well, suppose we hear from the boy.
Well, I feel that I've proven myself. I haven't gotten into any trouble lately, and I want to go out with my friends. And if I can't do so, I would like to leave home.
Well, we understand that your mother is virtually keeping you under lock and key, that you're not allowed to go out, and that she keeps you home so that you won't go out with the gang. And is that what you want to rebel against? You want to go out?
Well, I haven't gotten into any trouble lately, and nobody has complained about anything. And I feel that I can take care of myself.
And not get into any trouble. Well, when you say you haven't gotten into any trouble lately, trouble with whom? What do you mean by that?
Well, I haven't gotten into any trouble with the police or anyone else.
For how long?
For a few weeks now. It's been.
So the issue is whether or not he should be allowed to have the privilege of leaving the house at his own discretion. Is that right? And you're keeping him there because you're afraid he'll get into trouble and something disastrous may happen. Well, now, will you tell us something about this gang that you belong to? Who are the leaders of the gang? And
Well,
you have to talk up so that these mediators can hear you. Please talk loud, and if you don't mind, look at them. They'd like to look at you, and you look at them, and you talk to them.
there are two leaders, really. There's a president and a warlord. And they make most of the decisions, and everybody abides by their rules.
Well, what does the warlord do?
The warlord goes into the enemy's territory and gets a time and place for the gang war or fight. And at this time that is arranged, everybody meets and has weapons.
And what does the president do?
The president has the right to say whether he wants to or would he rather not fight the other gang.
And were you ever the president?
I was.
Up until when?
A few weeks ago.
Now, you say that after the warlord arranges the fight, that you bring weapons and you show up at the place of combat. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what are these weapons?
Well, they range from a can opener to sometimes guns.
And what are the other weapons?
Well, there's sometimes pipes, chains, knives, just about anything that'll do damage.
What kind of knives?
Well, there's switchblade knives. When you press a button, the blade comes out.
And you have all bats, you say, and steel pipe?
Yes, sir.
Anything that will break anybody's head open. Is that the idea?
Yes, sir.
Well, now, has anyone been seriously hurt?
People have been sent to the hospital, yes.
Yes. Now, do you take part in all this thing?
I did, but I haven't recently.
What are you interested in? What do you do?
Well, I'd rather go out with my friends and just swap stories, sing sometimes. Just socialize.
When you say your friends, you mean the members of this gang?
Yes, sir.
Well, tell us something about these social activities. What happens when you want a little more excitement?
Well, sometimes somebody would suggest going down to the river. We'd go down the river and they'd start throwing stones at trains that go by. Or,
You take rocks and throw them at the windows of the train, don't you?
yes, sir.
What do you do that for?
Just for kicks, I guess.
And what else do you do for kicks?
Well, sometimes when a lot of kids would get together, they'd make a bomb and throw it.
What else do you do with these bombs?
Well, once it was thrown on a car, and as the flames spread, the car did explode.
Did you make sure whether or not there were any people in the car?
Well, it didn't matter to them.
Well, now, suppose you need money, and are you just saying they? You've been a member of this gang for a long time, haven't you?
Well, I've been a member for a long time, but since a few weeks, a month ago, I haven't indulged in those things anymore.
Well, were you ever picked up by the police?
Yes, sir.
Well, now tell us about what happens if members of the gang need money. After all, they have to have money.
Well, some kids, I guess, would be standing on the corner, and if some woman did walk by, 1, 2 of the fellas would just take her pocketbook and run, and they'd go into an alley and empty it, throw the pocketbook away so that if they were caught, the police wouldn't have anything against them, any evidence.
What else do they do if they need money?
Well, they'd sometimes try and hold up a store. They'd could get guns. Someone always has a gun, and try and hold up a grocery store. Or,
Where do they get the guns?
well, someone always has a gun. Sometimes they get it from out of state, a racketeer or someone that they know.
They buy it?
Yes, sir.
Did any of your friends, were any of your friends ever put away for this and other crimes?
Yes, sir. I have some fellas I know in reformatories.
Well, these friends that you socialize with, are they friends of yours?
In a way, yes. I know them from around.
Well, they're part of the gang. You were the president, weren't you?
I was, but some of them I didn't know.
Well, do you know any of them that are in reformatory at the present time?
Yes, sir.
And what are some of the crimes?
Well, some of them are in for larceny, robbery, illegal possession of weapons, petty theft, things like that.
Assault?
Yes, sir. So,
And what happens when you have a particularly bad grudge against a certain gang and you want to be sure to lick them? What do you do then?
Well, we try and round up about 3 other gangs, and we get everybody together, and we have almost 100 boys, and just some were chosen, and we get into cars and put guns or bombs in the car and ride by into the enemy's territory and either throw a bomb or shoot at them.
And there's about 100 boys involved in this, all the best fighters and so forth, rounded up from the surrounding neighborhoods, and then you have a terrific fight. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, of course, you can't do that all the time. You must have more social activity. What do you do when you want more social activity?
Well, sometimes somebody's parents go out, and we'd get about 20 girls and boys, go up somebody's house, and we just put out the lights and have a good time.
What do you do?
Anything we want to.
Anything you want. Now, these girls are pretty loyal, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
For example, when you have one of these big fights with a gang that you have a tremendous grudge against, what happens with the girls?
Well, the girls usually come along to carry weapons and cheer on the boys, tell them that they won't lose, that they should go ahead.
Sort of cheer them up, shout congratulations and encouragement and that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
Well, do you have anything to do with this?
I did, but...
Not in the last month.
About that.
Well, these other fellows don't think much of you if you don't want to go along. Isn't there a word for that? Don't they call you chicken?
Well, they did call me chicken, and I did fight some other boy from a rival gang, and I'd proven myself, and they didn't call me chicken after that. I won.
You won the fight, and now they feel you can take care of yourself, so you can either go or not. And that's what you told your mother, that you can take care of yourself?
Yes, sir.
And your mother wants to protect you and keep you in the house?
My boy is a good boy.
Can't
I
hear you.
know.
You'll have to talk up. What is your boy?
I said my boy is a good boy. I know. And we're trying to protect him. And I know it's not good to keep him home all the time, but the other choice is to let him out, and he's with them. And he comes from a good home. People think that these boys come from bad homes, but he doesn't. My husband is a good man. And we've been married 24 years, and we're devoted to one another. And he's a good father and a good husband. And I have other children, 2 older ones, and they turned out very well. I have a little boy, 5, and he still has to grow up here. We don't know whether to leave this city or not. And I don't know what to do anymore.
Your husband is pretty well broken up about this, isn't he?
He's very broken-hearted over this boy.
Yes. And so you thought that it would be a good idea to keep the boy in, even out under lock and key if necessary.
Well, there's no other choice,
Yes.
I think.
And we address you as the son here. You've packed your bag, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you've done? You got the valise all ready to go? And what would you do, hide out with one of the other fellows?
Well, my friends would help me. They'd give me a place to stay and food.
Well, now, I think that the situation has been made very clear. Dr. Foster, how do you feel about this?
Well, I think the craving of this lad for fellowship and friendship with other teenagers is very normal. He wants to have recognition and assume responsibility, and that's normal and natural. But he doesn't foresee, perhaps there's a glimmering of it, but he hasn't foreseen, as he should, that to associate with a gang that commits criminal acts means that very likely in time he himself will become a criminal. Now, on the other hand, I think the method that the parents have been employing is not a good method. You can't lock up a teenager in a room and keep him there forever. The controls can't be from the outside. The controls must be from within him. And the practical solutions that come to me are these. that you try to share with him so that he will have a larger measure of self-understanding. That is, that he will foresee that to continue in this relationship may ruin his life. It may mean prison. It may mean something terribly serious and tragic. Again, instead of locking him up, I think you've got to trust him. Make him realize that he has his own life to live, and appeal to the better side of his life. And again, I think that this is a possibility, and perhaps you might want to consider it, namely, to move from this community to another community where new associations would be found. This boy needs friends. He needs teenagers to share with, and he must have them. But if he has already made these associations here that are bad for him, it might be worth the sacrifice to go into another community and let him reestablish himself.
Ms. Buck?
Well, I think that this situation that we see exemplifies again a very serious defect in our Western culture, which is that we have no place for the adolescent. The adolescent is not recognized in our country, in the West, generally speaking, but especially in the United States. They have no particular duties. They have no responsibilities to the state or the community. They're breaking away from their family. There is nothing for them to do. Nothing is expected of them. And we just tolerate them until they can have to become adults. They are, to all intents and purposes, already adults. And in other civilizations, the adolescent is recognized as a definite part of the community with responsibilities to the community. There are rites and rituals which recognize, even in very primitive societies, the important place of the adolescent. We ignore these adolescents entirely. The result is that, being ignored, they form their own communities, their own societies, their own rules, because there are no rules given to them. They have no responsibility to the nation.
Well, Ms. Buck...
Therefore, that is just the background, and this is what we see. Now, with this situation, I can only say that unless there are resources in the community that you can discover together with the boy, not alone by yourselves as parents, but with this boy, what other resources in the community could possibly give him the companionship, the responsibility, and work that he needs? Many adolescents can't find work because of labor unions, for example.
Well, now, Ms. Buck, let's get at the bottom of this, because you've raised a very interesting point. Now, would you say, Ms. Buck, that attendance at school is certainly an important thing for a boy?
Not if he doesn't see any use in it.
Well, now, do you go to school?
No, sir. I left school about 3 months back.
What year in high school were you?
I was in my junior year.
And you quit school?
Why did he quit school?
Why did you quit?
Well, I just wasn't interested in school. I couldn't see anything in it.
You see, school is only some way of filling up their time. It doesn't build into what they need as adolescents. May I say something?
Well, Miss Buck, when you suggest that our Western civilization doesn't meet the problem, what would you propose be done by our Western civilization?
I don't say it doesn't meet the problem. It doesn't take the opportunity. These are important people. These are people who should be thinking how, in a very few years, they should vote in the government. They should vote much earlier, I believe. They should vote at 18.
You mean here is the Western civilization?
Certainly, in a few years, this boy has to be responsible in the nation. A very few years.
But what's the reason for that? Why is this boy this way?
This boy is this way because nobody recognizes his importance and the importance of people like him. Nothing is done for them. The school is dull. Of course they're dull. I know school is dull, too.
Are you suggesting that the government should make some contribution?
Community, state, government, all of us should do something to help this valuable group of adolescents.
Well, Dr. McCracken, you are a personality in this city around the organization of which you are a head, certainly one of the most influential churches in the country, Riverside Church in New York. You are in a position to know something about what is done, what resources there are, and you're also in a position to know, unhappily, I think, something about this particular problem because of neighborhoods where this sort of thing takes place. What have you to say about
Yes,
this?
the problem itself is familiar, but one aspect of it, if I may generalize for a moment, I would like to bring out. So often when we read about gangs and talk about gangs, we at once lay the onus of responsibility at the door of parents. Here we have parents who are consumed with concern. This, I think, is a good point. It will never do to keep the boy locked up, but equally it will never do for the boy to keep in association with this gang. Ultimately, he will conform to the ways, even though for the time being he is a dissenter. He must, I think, find other friends. And while I would support the main contention of Miss Buck, I would have to point out to you that you can form other associations in your own neighborhood. There are youth groups, there are neighborhood centers, there are social workers, youth workers, and you could change the whole trend and character of your life if you were to seek out that new kind of association.
Well, before summing up, we're going to ask this young man whether or not it is his avowed intention, if he's no longer locked up, and if he's allowed to go and come more or less as he pleases on his own responsibility, whether or not he's going to associate with this particular gang.
Well, that's a very hard question to answer because these friends that I do have aren't just friends that stay in one spot. They are all over the Bronx, and no matter where I go in the Bronx, I would be bound to see some of them.
So the point is that to some extent this is beyond his control if the boys come into his life, and one solution has been the suggestion that this family move from the city. But in any event, one thing is sure. Nobody's going to solve the problem of juvenile delinquency here today, not in the next few minutes anyway. And it is an appalling, frightful thing. But on the issue of this young man, the board agrees that he should be free. The board says he should be free to come and go, and that's the way it's going to be. But the board says, and it looks as if he's mature enough to recognize that with the freedom that he's going to have, there is also a responsibility. And there are many boys that are similar to this boy and in a similar situation, and many families in the same situation, that you can't have one without the other. You can't have freedom without responsibility. And we have the feeling that this young fellow, and a lot like him, who ought to thank their lucky stars that they have parents and homes, can find plenty of heroes among the McCrackens and the Fosters and the Pearl Bucks, who did very nicely without the social distinction of the open house or kid stuff like throwing rocks at trains or anything as demented or psychopathic as igniting gasoline bombs and terrorizing and tormenting and injuring innocent people. And we have the feeling that this boy and a lot of promising but misguided boys like him will see the wisdom and the fun and the thrill before it's too late of getting on the right side of the ledger instead of winding up behind bars or in the electric chair. I believe that that's what this board thinks. As we express our thanks to our mediators and look forward to another session of the Court of Human Relations, I think of the words of Browning, and it applies to a lot of situations: the honorable end. That's the one thing that cannot be taken from a man.